Licenciada. Agradecemos su estupenda participación. Sin más preámbulo, pasaremos de inmediato a nuestro primer panel de la tarde. Para ello, dejo ante ustedes al licenciado ICPA Kenneth Rivera Robles, Tax Partner de FPV y Galindez, y Presidente del Comité de Legislación y Cabildeo de la Cámara de Comercio de Puerto Rico, quien tiene a su cargo moderar esta sesión. Es importante mencionar que sus preguntas serán revisadas por nuestros moderadores en la sección de Q&A de Zoom y atendidas al final de la sesión. Además, les menciono que las biografías y presentaciones de nuestros conferenciantes estarán disponibles en la página web de la Cámara de Comercio de Puerto Rico, www.cámarapr.org. Adelante, licenciado ICPA Rivera Robles.
Gracias, Miguel. Gracias a las personas que están aquí en la tarde de hoy y a las personas que nos están viendo por los medios electrónicos. Bien contento y bien feliz de estar aquí. Haciéndome eco de las palabras de nuestro presidente, entiendo que es bien importante este evento. Está todo el mundo opinando de qué debe pasar con la cuestión energética del país. Y ahorita vamos a brincar inglés porque tenemos... algunos de nuestros panelistas hablan inglés, así que queremos que esto sea más una conversación que una presentación formal. Pero nos parece importante que la Cámara se inserte en este tipo de iniciativas y que sirvamos como catalítico para que la gente tenga una opinión informada y la gente conozca pues realmente dónde estamos. En la tarde de hoy, y voy a brincar pues ya inglés en lo que los voy presentando, we have in our panel, and we're very glad to have you guys, Ralph Kreil, who's the president of the board of PREPA. Welcome, Ralph. I also past president of the Engineers Association, Puerto Rico. We have a couple of adventures together here and even in the States. Tomás Torres-Placa, el ingeniero Tomás Torres-Placa, que es planificador, licenciado, representante, and he's the consumer representative in PREPA's board. Tomás is also a very good old friend that we have. We had a lot of discussions in the past. Half of them we are in agreement, half of them we are not. I think that's a healthy friendship, I guess. So let's see how we finish today. Josué Rivera. Josué Rivera is State Director of Rural Development in the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Josué is also a very good old friend. We have known each other, I think, close for 10 years now. Since he was a student, I think I know Josué, so I'm very, very happy to see him today, and I'm very happy to see a young guy with such an initiative and taking charge of things. It restores my faith in the future of the island. And two new good friends, David Owens, President of the Aviation Strategies Energy, consultant and chairman also of the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority Transformation Advisory Council, and Robert Poe, who is also a member of PREPA's board. And just to give you guys some background on myself, I'm an attorney. I don't say that much, but I'm also a CPA by trade, and also a tax practitioner. So some of my comments, you will see where I'm coming from. And the reason why Wanda left these numbers here when she was making her presentation, and it's one of the concerns I have, and I share your vision in some things, and the position you are. I used to be in PRASA's board at some point in time of my life. So I will begin just by saying that thank you guys for your service. I know it's a tough service. People think it's very easy, and it's not. And also people have to know where we stand. And the reason why we left the numbers behind is that fiscally, and that's the CPA in me speaking now, everybody's speaking that energy should go down, that we should do this next week, that we should buy more equipment, we should repair everything in 2 weeks. But if we don't have the money, we cannot do it. And I think one of the first challenges that we have, it's a financial challenge. And obviously, there's a couple of engineers here in this group. There are also operational challenges that we have to address. So taking that into consideration as a starting point, the first question to the board, and I know the president of the board wants to make some remarks, it's where we are today, where PREPA is today, which things we are doing good, which things we should be doing better. And I know Ralph asked for the first spot.
Thank you, Kenneth. Yes, I asked for the first spot, not because where we are. It's where we were 2 years ago when we got into the board and where all the things I've been going through. And literally, when we came, and we need to remember that Rome was not built in one day. I came to the board in 2018, July, and that was actually we had no board, no CEO, Title III, Hurricanes Irma and Maria, a negative cash flow. You see these numbers. We have a negative cash flow of over $300 million at that time. Electrical high and variable rates. There was no concern. I mean, there was no way of keeping them, no credibility at DC, the creditors, no Puerto Rico consumers, FOMB, and the PREP. From there, we got the board, a full board, including myself, David, Bob, Mr. Charles Bales, Attorney Gerardo Loran, Joel Pizá, Maria Palou, which left a month ago, and Tomás Torres. And later, this board came well committed to restore a severe damaged T&D system, improving system reliability, and addressing generation resources adequacy issues. This board is very, very well committed to provide a more modern, sustainable, reliable, efficient, robust, cost-effective, and resilient electric service in the benefit of the consumer and the Puerto Rico's economic development. A couple of things I'll go very fast to some accomplishments. The credit line was paid off. Now we have a cash flow around $450 million. Especially with Mr. Poe, we implemented a more transparent and rigorous procurement discipline PREPA, which was very, very necessary. We created a very successful relationship with the FOMB, which was not at that time. We established the trust at DC, federal and local agencies. As was mentioned, we got a public policy, which we were at the College Association of Engineers, and everybody was looking for that. On April 2019, it was signed off and approved, so we have now a public policy law. One of the things we did, we got the board to go and visit all the generation and dispatch units to know exactly where PREPA was 2 years ago, so they know what exactly they were voting for and approving when they came for money, and how we can comply with the FOMB at the same time, and we can argue with the PREP. So that from there, we started repairing and giving a lot better maintenance to our units. Restored the warehouse inventories, that they're a lot better than before Maria. We started having public meetings with the public, with the mayors, with the reps of the consumer. We restored our five fleet helicopters, which actually that's one of the things happened the other day. What the Futuro helicopter was rescued. Yeah. Literally a year ago would have not been able to. So there's a lot of things that have been going on. We reinstated, and that's something Luma is going to keep, which is the vegetation management and the street lighting. We converted 5 and 6 in San Juan to natural gas and keep burning diesel at the same time. We established a new LNG supply capability in San Juan. Renegotiated the contract with Ecoeléctrica and Naturgy, so we have a lot cheaper energy for the island. At the same time, we're working yet. We have not finished yet because we need to move forward with the renewables. But pretty soon, at the end of this month, we'll get with the 150 that the FOMB approved. So soon we'll be getting out the new RFP for the renewables, which is one of the topics that we need to get into the 25%, 40% for 2550 for 2025. We updated and brought up to the current auditing process. So our auditing is up to date, and Bob can say a little bit more about that. We renegotiated in the benefit of the consumer existing PPOAs, which is another thing to bring the rate down. We manage PREPA's response over multiple tropical systems. Now, when the hurricanes, people took like a year to have power up or service. Now, this last, through the earthquake was like a week, but now we have the tropical storms and it's taking a couple of days or maybe 1 day. I mean, so we're bringing the system back to being confident and a little bit more robust and sustainable. Still, there's a lot to go. There are a lot of things that have been done, and Tomás has been helping in this with the customer service initiatives, and the same as Bob. The other thing is all this has been done with COVID-19. And still the lights has been on, and we got Luma, the selection of Luma, which that transition for T&D is one of the most important transitions that needs to go through. We even had a talk with Wayne this morning, and we need to keep forward with that. The governor is compromised with that also, same as our actual governor. So, and we got, that they say, $13.2 billion from FEMA approved. So it's showing that the trust at DC has been all again gained by our Puerto Rico, or the PREPA, Puerto Rico Electrical Power Authority. But still, we have a lot of other things to move forward. We need to be in compliance with the IRP, which was approved from the PREP. We need to keep enhancing the grid resiliency, including the capital investment and grid modernization, which that's part of the Luma work to be through. So there are a lot of things. But one more important thing is we have the 10-year, which we're working right now on the 10-year restructuring plan for FEMA. Luma is working on the 3-year remediation plan to make sure we move ahead real fast when they come in. And as you said, we need to keep forward making the efforts to get out of Title III, see what we do with the RSA, and see what we do with our employees' pension plan. Because as a conclusion, our employees are our biggest asset, as well as our retirees and their families, and we will always protect them. It really has been a teamwork. PREPA has made significant progress in rebuilding Puerto Rico. And itself, it has been a teamwork between the board members, the administrative personnel, employees, contractors, consultants, AFAP, P3, Core 3, FOMB, the PREP, and the federal government. So with this, there's a lot more to go, but we have done a lot up till now. So from here, and if anybody else wants to say anything.
Anyone else from the board have any comments? Tomás?
Thank you, Ralph, and thank you, Kenneth. Like Gerardo Cosme mentioned in his introduction, information is power. So we have a good source of information. We can say that we have half the power. We need the other half of the information, that is the consumer side. This morning, we have our board meeting in PREPA, our weekly board meeting, and always, I asked Nelson Morales, our controller, say how we are doing with the deficit. What is PREPA's net position regarding assets and liabilities? That's my question to him. I just need to look to Nelson and say, oh, here's Tomás again with net position of asset and liability. Well, we have a deficit of $9,400 million. If you're an accountant, if you're a CPA, please don't go in shock. But that will tell you, Kenneth, you're an accountant, so
I'm in shock already. I was in shock already. I knew the number.
So you know that a net position deficit of $9,400 million for a corporation that earnings are $3,000 million a year are 3 times. It's a corporation that have 3 times the deficit in that position that is annual earnings. Last year, PREPA's year-to-date deficit, operational deficit during the year was $530 million. And up to date, up to September, we had a deficit of 160. We're doing good things, and what I can say is the patient was dead, now he's in coma, but is still in intensive care. And he's in intensive care and need help. And if you see the debt, everybody can see in the screen, 17,130 million. That's the liabilities. The assets are barely 9.5 billion. Debt to asset ratio is about 1.7, 1.65 or so. Normally, per APPA for a utility similar to PREPA is 0.56. That means that PREPA's liabilities to be more in line, 0.56, yes. To be more in line, that liabilities need to be reduced substantially from $17,000 million to between $5,000 and $6,000 million. So that's a humongous task that needs to be done, also considering that the pension debt of PREPA is nearly $5 billion, and the capital assets of PREPA is similar value. So you have a corporation that pension fund debt is similar to its capital assets. So there is a lot of things to work in PREPA. And another thing is, Gerardo Cosme mentioned in his introduction that if we want a good energy that moves forward with good plans, plans need to be good, need to be thorough, need to be well completed. And one thing, everybody here, is married. I've been married 27 years. Many of the audience, and we're looking here in our by the internet, had been married or are married. The important thing, Kenneth, is the process. You need to go through the process. It's not just a starting, you need to go through the process. And that is what concerns me, specifically regarding the Luma contract. This morning, I have a strong conversation with Mr. Wayne Stensby and with the administrator of P3, Mr. Fontanes, because the process is not right. There is no time sheet signs for PREPA for review. There is no backup of invoices. And guess what? 53 million of invoices submitted to date, of which only 16 million we can say that are good standing to be paid. The rest, more than $30 million, no time sheets, no backup documentation for submission. And this is about the process. This is about things to start good, because PREPA needs to be transformed. We want everyone to succeed here. Nobody wants to fail. I don't want anyone to fail here, but process is very, very, very important. And that is our main concern.
Thank you.
If I might,
Yep.
just take us back to the original concern. You got to build a strong electric system. So Tomás is right. We've got a lot of debt. We've got pension debt. We have other debt. But we also understand if we're going to bring jobs to Puerto Rico, if we're going to have a growing economy, you have to have a resilient and reliable electric system. If you're going to have clean energy, you have to integrate renewable technologies. And so that's what we're about. That's what the board is about. We're about transforming the electric system, working with Luma and others, working with PREP, working with FOMB, so that we can build a stronger electric system to have businesses come back to Puerto Rico, so that we can create economic development, so young people that have left the island have a future because they see a very strong electric system. That's what we are about. Trust is part of it. Partnerships is part of it. I understand what Thomas Torres is saying. Transparency is part of it. Ralph spoke to that. But you got to build a strong electric system. You got to let the citizens of Puerto Rico know we are serious about this transformation. We're firmly committed to building a strong electric system. If we build a strong electric system, we can pay down the debt. We can build confidence back in Puerto Rico. We can attract businesses back to Puerto Rico. We create a whole new set of jobs in Puerto Rico. That's what we're about.
Well, I agree with you, David, and let me tell you why. There's no economic growth without a strong electric grid, and we need to build on that. We need to continue transforming and cutting regulation to make sure businesses, get back to the island, or increase jobs and opportunities, specifically in the rural areas. But the transformation for the energy grid is key. It's a key component of our economic development strategy going forward. So in order to have a rural development, in order to have financing, in order to get out of the Fiscal Oversight Board and Title III, we need a strong plan and a strong, effective compliance with the milestones of the fiscal plan and on the plan for PREPA. So one of the things that worries me the most with this new contract, nothing against Luma, and for private sector 100%, is the transparency component and good governance and part of transparency as a pillars of good governance, right? You need to have transparency, you have to have communication with your stakeholders, you need to have communication with the public. And if we don't get that thing clear, we need to get that thing very clear with the people, explain that, A, B, C, this is the contract, this is what we're looking for with this contract, with this company, and include the other components, the other structural change that the Fiscal Oversight Management Board need to address, such as pension, the other Title III restructuring,
Yes.
Title V, very important
Yes.
for the energy sector and the other sectors of the economy. But in rural development, we are looking forward to PREPA to complete Title III so we can look for financing options for you guys and actually build on the electric co-ops to accomplish the goals that have been established by the state government. We have a significant milestone there that you have to complete 40% by 2025. So you will not do that by yourself. You need to increase renewables, you need to increase electric co-ops, and you need to bring other partners, stakeholders to the equation. Is that correct?
We totally agree with you. We're robustly in support of renewables, you're right. A goal of 40% by 2025 is a huge goal to try to achieve. If you look at our current system today, and I'll break it up into three parts. You look at our current operating projects, okay, that's close to 200 megawatts. You look at the requirement that we have by the FOMB to install an additional 150 megawatts, that would take us to 350 megawatts. We are going to be soliciting bids for new renewables starting the first part of next year for an additional 450 megawatts, so do the math. And every year after that, we're going to be looking between 250 and 400 megawatts. So we can achieve it, but to achieve it, we have to all work together. We have to have a process which is clear, and we have to have a partnership and transparency.
So I'd like to go back to something Josué said at the beginning, which is about governance. And one of the so let's go back to what Ralph said. Ralph talked about how bad shape things were in when we took over. I lived on Vieques. I had no power for 6 months. I moved here from Alaska, where I ran the energy authority there. Now, one of the very first things we did, because every day in the paper, there was some story about some contract PREPA was doing, and whether it was competitive or not. So, and I said, contracting's supposed to be boring. It should just be, you have a straightforward, competitive, clean process. So that's one of the very first things we implemented. There's not a contract that happens at PREPA today that isn't fully competitively bid, full RFP process. So that's important. Tomás correctly pointed out that PREPA is bankrupt. I think all of you knew that. I know I knew that. It's really bankrupt, right? And that definitely has to be resolved. But if we just sat there and said, whoop, PREPA is bankrupt and there's nothing we can do, that would be terrible for all of Puerto Rico. So what we did is, as much as we could do, and we continue to do this, with what's there. So if power is getting better and more resilient, it's because we fixed the same rickety stuff that broke after Maria. We've restored many plants that haven't been in operation since before Maria. Vieques has emergency power now that it didn't have before Maria. So there have been many things that we've put in place that are an effort to, in the meantime, between solving some of these monstrous problems, we still make sure we keep the lights on every day for Puerto Ricans. In fact, at this point, we're producing 3.4 gigawatts. I don't think PREPA has produced 3.4 gigawatts in a decade. So many of those things are a positive, and I'll finish on this point, Josué, which is that, when we came on, the creditors in the bankruptcy were seeking receivership. They wanted to just start taking assets. And it's because we calmed things down that they've stopped pursuing that. You don't hear anything about receivership right now. The only way you're going to get out of this is if this thing operates smoothly and we make these successful transactions like to the LUMA contract, which we are highly supportive of, would like to see it happen. So I think that's kind of where we are right now. We're doing our best with what we got, and it's not perfect, that's for sure.
It's hard to ask an open question when we have such a big and knowledgeable panel. I mean, two more things to throw into the mix. You already mentioned the LUMA contract.
Yes.
And again, we have a saying in Spanish, and I think you guys have it in English as well. Doing the same thing all over again and expecting different results is madness. We have the same saying. So if we keep doing what we're doing, we'll be in the same place. I mean, and I recognize some of the achievements that Ralph mentioned in his part. But I'm briefly, and I know this could last a couple of hours, but and already Tomás mentioned something about LUMA and some of the other members as well. Where you see the LUMA situation, and LUMA will be part of the next panel, so they will speak extensively about that. But the thing nobody's speaking about is the RSA. I think we are pinching for pennies. I mean, we are speaking about LUMA, and we should be speaking about the RSA, and again, the CPA that lives within me is speaking. Any thoughts on that?
Surprisingly, when the LUMA contract was approved, I heard by the chairman of AFAF, Omar Marrero, that the RSA was going to be removed soon. That was in June. And after that, I heard even some government officials assuming that the RSA was already removed. No, the RSA is still in court. Should be removed immediately. So we can restructure PREPA's debt in accordance with national standards. Now, but there is something even greater than that, is that Puerto Rico electrical system need to be thinking out of the box, an open system. How we translate that into Puerto Rico? Well, wheeling, retail wheeling. And this morning, I said a few minutes ago that we have our monthly board meeting. We discussed the importance of PREPA. I brought that topic because being PREPA, an open transmission and distribution system that different sources and different vendors, municipalities, co-ops, private entities, private organizations, and even consumers can bring energy into the grid. That's the future of PREPA. Now, something of concern, and I see here my friend Edison Avilés, which is the president of the Energy Bureau. The Energy Bureau recently proposed an interim wheeling tariff. That is of great concern. Why? Because that interim wheeling tariff basically will be the same tariff for commercial and industrial customers, but will remove the riders for fuel and the rider for purchase power. Well, I did a couple of runs, I did some exercise, and the wheeling tariff normally, and we run some exercise in the 2016 rate case on the previous Energy Commission, and I see here Alejandro Figueroa was part of that rate case, and Mr. Sarumba from Navigant put some wheeling rates that in total for the transmission distribution system was about 7 cents, and about 1 to 2 cents was transmission. Now, this new interim energy tariff, depending how you see it, if you see it in a liberal way, you will have a transmission cost 3 to 5 cents, and that's really looking positive, in a positive manner. If you look at more conservative, including demand charge, that are not clear how the interim regulation will deal, that can grow up to 10 cents. That is madness. That would put Puerto Rico in a very bad position internationally. So I hope that is corrected immediately. And
So
I
may
hope
I
that is
speak
discussed
too?
on the-
Okay. So I've been in the business for 40 years. I participated in proceedings all across the United States, all before Congress, proceedings that deal with wheeling, retail wheeling. I participate in the substantial proceedings on grid modernization. So the first thing you need is a strong grid. Okay? You can talk wheeling all night, but if you don't have a grid that can accommodate, okay, wheeling transactions, it's not going to work. You also, if we said the fundamental items that we have here is a stronger grid for reliability and resiliency. So we need to keep that at the top of mind, because if you don't have reliability and resiliency, if you have a hurricane and you can't restore service quickly, you have failed. So you have to put wheeling in the context of your existing grid and what you intend to do in the future. And wheeling, you also have to make sure too that you're not unreasonably shifting costs from one group of customers to another group of customers. That's very critical. So we can say wheeling, it is a very complex topic. It's not as simple as Tomás Torres is saying. You have to really get all the stakeholders involved. You have to make sure too that you're not jeopardizing the expansion and the improvements in the system. You have to make sure that there's compensation. Right now we got $10.5 billion up to $13 billion to rebuild the grid, to strengthen the grid in Puerto Rico. We're going to put state-of-the-art technologies in through LUMA. We're going to have it so there'll be visibility. If you have customers feeding into a grid, you got to know what customers are feeding into the grid so they don't jeopardize reliability. And you need to have coordination, cooperation, and visibility, okay? And we don't have any of that right now. So before you jump saying it's going to be a 10-cent savings or so forth, you got to have the grid. You got to understand how that grid will look. It's going to be a different grid if we're putting microgrids in. If we're building renewables, it's very different than the grid that we have, which relies on central station oil facilities. Now we're converting to natural gas, one major coal-fired plant. But if you're building a grid around microgrid, it's very, very different. Wheeling is very different when you do that, because renewables are weather dependent. They're intermittent sources. So it is a complex topic. It's one that invites an important dialogue. It's one that fundamentally has got to be driven by preserving and enhancing reliability and resiliency and not shifting costs from one group of customers to another group of customers. It is not a simple issue. It's one that requires a very thorough dialogue.
And it needs to be based on real costs. Kenneth, it needs to be based on real
Tomás,
costs.
Tomás,
That's
save
important.
something for the next board meeting. Please, I only have 6 minutes.
No, but
We
it's
only have
important,
6
Kenneth.
minutes, Tomás.
No, but Kenneth, it's important because.
No, I know it's important, Tomás, but they haven't spoken yet, so.
Okay.
The only thing is I can say, Kenneth, you're an accountant, not myself. I'm an engineer. But we know we have a debt and something we have to pay. I don't think it's going to be the same RSA that it was approved. I would say it's going to have to be renegotiated because of this COVID-19, which has affected the entire world. So that's something we're going to have to look into. That's something FAF needs to work on and FOMB needs to work on. So we'll see something, but there's a depth, and there's a
Yes.
depth with the pension plan, which we are very, very concerned with, and needs to be taken care of also.
Because we want to be able to go to capital markets.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very important. Right now, you can't even look at our debt. So if we're going to, you got to build a strong grid. You got to acknowledge, too, that you have bondholders, that you have to resolve some of those issues. You got pension holders, employees of PREPA. You got to deal with that. All of these are significant issues. But you also don't want to unreasonably have a negative impact on rates. That is very, very important.
That will be the hard part, I mean, because, everybody was expecting that the power is going to be reduced magically, and we have a fiscal reality that we are facing. We only have 4 minutes and a half, so.
But,
Uh-huh.
Kenneth, I just want to add, I want to say one thing because I always hear rate, lower rate, and for me, at least for myself, and I would say for the board, it's more important at this time to get the system where it's supposed to be than lowering the rate. Because, you could be paying 5 cents a kilowatt and don't have power anytime, and be paying 20 cents or 8.17 what we have right now, and you are having power 24 hours a day.
That's right.
It's completely different.
And that's true for industrial customers. And,
Yes.
for industrial customers, you need frequency, you need stability
right.
on the
You
system.
need
But
stability.
for individuals,
Exactly.
you expect lower rates, right? And,
right.
and you have the political class promising lower rates to the people, and you have the families and the low-income families, medium-income families
Yes.
looking for lower rates. So what you can promise to them? Well, if we have a better grid, you will
That's
not
right.
lose your fridge. You will not lose
That's
your
right.
microwave. You will keep your appliances in place.
Even for industrial customers.
Even for
we
industrial
have
customers.
clients that are complaining that their computers, their
Business
for
will
industrial-
stay.
monitoring
Having
different
generators because the power goes out, all
Yes.
that is cost that they're not.
You'll have continuity of electric service, and businesses will continue to operate and provide jobs, not send people home saying that we have to shut down our operations. So it starts with a resilient and reliable grid.
For pharmaceuticals and industry, it's more important to have frequency and good grid than the
Absolutely.
rates.
Than the rate.
But for individuals, we need to,
Absolutely.
make sure they have.
We have 3 minutes, and I'm afraid we did next question in 3 minutes, and I know you're very outspoken. Do you see that we are going to achieve the renewable milestones that are going to happen? And I know Josué has some initiatives regarding energy cooperatives and things like that, so if Josué wants to take the lead on that.
Well, I don't want to, steal
You have
the
3 minutes
lining
to
from
share. You have to be
Edison.
good brothers now.
On the Energy Bureau, they have the permitting process with the electric
Yes.
co-ops, so I don't want to steal the lining for Edison. But we're here at USDA to offer financing for the electric co-ops. We offer grants for the rural businesses and agricultural producers that, we provide 25% of the cost of the projects. We provide loan guarantees up to 75% of the cost of the project. So initiatives like that will continue to build on this promise to achieve the goals of 2025 and 2050. But PREPA, I asked the board, very respectfully, that we work together on getting the permits and the net metering faster.
Yes.
And that's something that I know for a fact that you guys are working on.
Yes.
And so I'll be patient with that, but my customer not necessarily are the patients as I am.
Okay, I just want to add to that. We have the GD portal, which we've got rearranged and everything. But Kenneth, that's one thing very critical. We are still waiting to clean some projects from PPOAs almost shovel-ready, and we're waiting to get some things out from FOMB, because we're looking forward to, by the end of this year, to throw the RFP out, which is really going to measure how is the market out there for renewables. Is it aligned with our IRP, with the pricing and everything, or not? And that's the target, that as soon as we measure the market, we'll know which way we're going.
Thank you. An open access system based in real costs need to be established in Puerto Rico so we can have growth of renewables, we can have growth of the system as well, and we can have additional income of PREPA, of clients that doesn't buy energy to PREPA, but might use their wires. And in regards the goal for 40%, PREPA needs to do everything possible to achieve that, because that is the law, that is Act 17.
Well, guys, we have 22 seconds. I really appreciate
We're
your
firmly
time.
committed to renewables, so that should be a message you should take away.
And-
We're going to
and
work
we
very,
view-
very hard to achieve the goals that the PREP has laid out.
And we view the IRP as our work plan.
Yes.
So that's the
you
way
guys
we've taken
think-
it.
You guys think we'll be there by
Well, we didn't
5
argue
minutes?
it. We're going to try to take it as our serious work plan and do our
Get it
best to
done.
make it happen.
Well, guys, my thanks, my appreciation, as I mentioned before, for the service you guys are providing. I know it's an ungrateful service, so again, I will say thank you guys for your service, like the people that serve in the military. And thank you guys for being here and being part of this initiative, trying to speak with people and to inform people so our business people, our business community is well informed and knows what's happening.
I just want to make sure and let you know that the board is open. We have had conversations with the coalition, private coalition, with the Association of Industrials, with the Association of Contractors. We're open. We're here today.
Appreciate
And we're
it.
open to be transparent and clear on where we're going and where we are going, and in transition with Luma and process with the GENCO.
Thank you, guys. It's been a privilege speaking with you guys
Yes,
today,
sir.
okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.